Hello and welcome along to the Bunnyhop powered by Cannondale, and hold tight because we've got a jam-packed show for you this month. We dissect all the action from the Ladies Tour of Norway. We take a spin in the West Midlands with Leah Dixon. Annemiek Van Vleuten reveals all in this month's Something About Me. And it's time to look ahead to the Paralympics and World Championships. Yes, well, plenty coming up, and here to discuss all of that in the studio today is pro cyclist and star baker Hayley Simmonds. And alongside us both is journalist, presenter of the cycling podcast Feminin, and someone that takes the Eurovision Song Contest even more seriously each and every year, Rose Manley.
Thank you. Great one.
It's true though, isn't it? And you dress up every year. Tell us about this.
It's true. This time round I was a pregnant Bjork in the full-on swan dress and sang, her most famous song. It's Oh So Quiet. I could do it right now if you wanted.
We would love that.
It might take a bit of time.
Hayley, baking. What have you baked lately?
Oh, I actually baked a birthday cake last week. So it was my mother-in-law's 65th birthday, and I'd planned a birthday cake. She then requested ice cream as well. So then there was an additional last-minute scramble to make a mint chocolate ice cream in addition to the lemon and hazelnut birthday cake that I'd made.
I love it. I'll be around very soon.
You're more than welcome.
Well, let's focus in on the cycling. Let's kick off now with the Ladies Tour of Norway. Let's see how it all unfolded out on the road. An aggressive start to stage one from Halden to Sarpsborg, and a quintet of riders broke clear after the first intermediate sprint with 110 kilometres remaining. A lead of 4 minutes aided by a crash in the peloton was whittled down steadily on the approach to the finish town. TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank rider Kristen Faulkner gave her fellow escapees a slip on the first of 3 laps of the finishing circuit. The chasing peloton a minute behind, and then with a lap to go, her lead was halved. A crash hindered the bunch with 2k to go, and this allowed the American to just about hold on for the first UCI Women's World Tour win of her career. Faulkner was determined to hold on to the leader's jersey at all costs on stage 2 from Aschim to Miezen, outmuscling Canadian Alison Jackson and Luxembourg champion Christine Majerus at the intermediate. With 47.5 kilometres to go, Rihanna Marcus broke free of the bunch. On stage 1, the sprinters' teams failed to reel in the lone escapee, and once again a maiden Women's World Tour winner, and with it the leader's jersey for Marcus by a margin of 2 seconds from Faulkner. Stage 3, culminating in a climb to the ski resort of Nordfjell, was always going to bring out the strongest riders. FDJ's Brody Chapman and Norwegian champion Vita Heine with a solid early effort. But it was a prelude to the main action, and with 3 kilometres to go, Annemiek Van Vleuten lit the afterburners with Cecily Uttrup Ludwig and Ashley Momen-Pasio clinging to her back wheel. The Dutch woman's furious pace was too much for first Ludwig and then Momen-Pasio, leaving her to cross the line with no one else in the picture. With that, the Movistar rider took the leader's jersey going into the final day with a lead of 39 seconds over Momen-Pasio. Barring disaster on the final stage to Halden, the overall would go to Van Vleuten, and so it was that an early escape pairing of Julie van der Velde and Marcella Ratto got close to 6.5 minutes lead on the bunch. There'd be no fairy tale ending this time though, and the peloton gobbled up the break before entering Halden for 3 circuits. Points jersey wearer Faulkner and Alison Jackson duked it out on the intermediate, with the Liv Racing Canadian coming out on top. And on the final approach to the line, Trek Segafredo placed Chloe Hosking on the front, the Aussie holding off Corinne Rivera and Chiara Consoni to grab a win against the odds after 5 months' absence through illness. And as expected, Van Vleuten sealed the overall and extended her lead over the absent Demi Vollering in the Women's World Tour rankings. Now, Hayley, I think I'm right in saying you've done this race 3 times now, and were the roads quite similar in this edition?
Yeah, they were pretty similar. I mean, the stage into Halden is a classic one. So the first year that I did it was 2015, when it was just a 2-stage race, and both stages there finished in Halden actually, and they always have that that kind of classic Halden stage at some point in the race. Quite fast and furious and technical.
It was certainly an exciting addition to watch, wasn't it? And Rose, those first two stages were interestingly similar. I mean, we saw Kristen Faulkner go for a flyer and hold it just about to the line for that victory, but then you wouldn't have perhaps thought someone could do the same the next day.
I think it's a little bit because, like Team DSM, I feel like they will have come away a little bit disappointed. They had 3 second places out of the 4 stages, but they really should have got a win on one of those days, because they kind of took a team that was very much perfect for those finishes, the stage 1, stage 2 finish, where it's kind of sprinty, but it got a little bit of a ramp at the end. They had a perfect team for that. And I feel a bit like they were relying on the likes of SD Works and Trek Segafredo, those teams that we normally see controlling the race, and they were kind of waiting for them to make the move and to bring those breakaways back. And obviously they weren't, because they were looking a little bit more at that 3rd stage, that summit finish. So they kind of had like Ashley Moorman, who was going to go very well on the big climb. So I think Team DSM kind of misjudged it a little bit.
And Hayley, would you agree with that? Do you think Rihanna Marcus was underestimated, or do you think it was a case of the GC interest maybe sitting back, not organising that chase, and it all just being too late?
I think actually DSM and Jumbo-Visma have a little bit of a kind of rivalry out on the road with some of these finishes, because in a way they've got some very similar types of riders, you know, very strong sprinters that are going to win those styles of finish. And yeah, and one thing that actually I find really impressive with Jumbo-Visma as a team is they're so adaptable. I think a lot of people would have seen that they'd lost Anna Henderson after day 1, knew that Marianne Vos wasn't there, and thought that, you know, maybe they'd be fighting for, you know, some seconds, some thirds, something like that out on the road, and just almost trying to kind of get a result out of a non-optimal situation for them. And they got a win, and a really impressive one at that.
It certainly was. Now, Rose, let's look just briefly at the overall win from Annemiek Van Vleuten. She went on the Queen stage. It's no surprise that she did that. Everybody, including us, knew she was going to do that. Could SD Works have done anything different, or was that just always going to play out like that?
It's hard to see at the end of the race, isn't it, when Annemiek's on the top step, that it could have gone any other way than the way that it did. Ashley Moorman was kind of making the move that Annemiek Van Vleuten was following, and you think with someone like Van Vleuten, you really want her to burn as many matches as she can and have as little energy as possible. But I think with Annemiek in the form that she's in, you know, coming second at the Olympic road race, winning the Olympic TT, then going and winning San Sebastian. I mean, she's just in absolute peak performance, I think, when she's in that kind of form.
And let's now look at the final stage, a win for Chloe Hosking there, and just back to pure sprint dominance there.
She waited to pick the right race to come back, but yeah, it's great that she did manage to get a win on that 4th stage, especially because that's actually a stage that she's not won before. She normally does actually win a stage of Norway and do very well in Norway. Those finishing circuits are perfect for her. So the fact that she had COVID and then pericarditis and hasn't ridden since the spring, and then she's waited, she's come back to Norway and actually managed to win a stage that she's not taken before, I think it's just so well deserved.
She's kind of switched teams over the years. She probably hasn't found the right support that she's wanted to have. She's suffered a lot of homesickness. She wanted to move back to Australia instead of staying in Europe. So it's impressive to see that she's come back, and we'll have to wait and see what she does from here.
Well, we touched upon Kristen Faulkner's stage victory there. We'll talk a bit more about her later in the show, but for now, let's take a trip to the West Midlands and meet Team TIBCO's Leah Dixon.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, and I'm so happy that the sunshine is back. Every rider is bringing the sunshine lately, it's amazing. You have such a beautiful accent, but it's not from here, is it?
No, so I am very Welsh and proud.
Very Welsh.
But we're not in Wales today, we're in the West Midlands in Patinum. I'm going to be taking you on some of my home training roads, some of my favourite Saturday bash rides. We'll have a nice scenic stop in Ironbridge and then Bridgnorth, and I'll show you some of the local roads.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Good, me too, yeah. So this is like always one of my favourite roads on the way out because it's like slightly downhill and super fast.
So of course you grew up in Wales, but what brought you to these parts?
So I moved, I think it's 2016 maybe, for work. Now I live here with my boyfriend.
How did you make the switch over from athletics that you were in previously to come into this world of cycling?
So I loved athletics, and I still do. I'm still like a athletics super fan. I got injured quite a lot when I was at university, got into the uni lifestyle a bit too much. I still kept fit and went to the gym. I was doing these crazy Ironman watt bike sessions at the local gym, and my dad was like, why don't you buy a road bike and ride that instead? So I did that, chased local segments, and then saw a poster for Wolverhampton Wheelers women's only session on a Monday night, and just went along to the track there. Couldn't ride clip-ins, had no idea how to ride in a group or draft behind everyone, and that's where it all started.
And you're coming from middle distance running as a discipline. What do you think translates so well? Because you're not the only one to make that switch.
No, I think that the switch from running to cycling is actually quite a common one in the women's peloton. I know that Danny Christmas used to be a really good runner, like much better than me. And then also, I think Lisa Kennedy.
So why have you chosen this particular spot for a stop?
So Bridgnorth, for starters, is just like super pretty. It's home to the local Sunday club run, and just up there there's a climb called the Hermitage, and that was my first ever road race. It was a men's race. I think I was last, or last but one, but I loved it and carried on from there.
And what was it about that first ever road racing experience that sparked the passion and kept you coming back?
I think that one, I'm just a natural competitor, so I love being in a race environment. Having kind of stopped running and having something that I could get my teeth stuck back into again, and I just love that feeling of kind of being like physically and mentally exhausted, and that feeling that you've given your all, and that doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you're at professional level or just, you know, trying hard to stay on the local club run. I just like that feeling. Yeah, I think I'm very much still learning now. I think that I'm still at a point where my skills and experience definitely hasn't caught up with my legs.
Were you surprised at how quickly you made the leap up?
I think I'm still working on making that leap up. It's very much kind of a work in progress, but I think that there's a big jump between kind of riding in the UK to riding at that level, but I think that I'm just starting to get the hang of it now.
These guys are up. Have a good ride.
Bye.
How have you been over like the last 18 months? Because I spoke to you previously and you were overcoming glandular fever, weren't you?
Yeah, I wasn't well at the Classics this year, so I came back, recovered, had a couple of weeks off, and then my first race back was La Course. Obviously La Course is like a bucket list race, it's so cool to be there, but for my first race back in, I think it was like 2 months, it was definitely a baptism of fire, but definitely still a privilege to be there.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of people have to, of course, adapt during the lockdowns, and you did very well in virtual racing.
Because of COVID, we'd had like so little races that we'd not really had the opportunity to to race together. But obviously in virtual racing that team dynamic is really important. So it was cool that we were all kind of on calls with each other and talking through team tactics, and I think that we really bonded through virtual racing as opposed to racing on the road, which was all that was available at the time. As a team, I won a couple of races at Tour for All, and then we won the overall team classification at the virtual Tour de France, which is pretty cool. One of my favourite sessions is going to hunt all the Strava quams on those climbs, like all in one go, which it always helps if the wind's favourable that day.
Do you get a little bit competitive on the quams?
Oh yeah, super competitive. Even when I first started, I used to love hunting segments. When I lived in Solihull, there's just like literally 100 women would be quicker than me on these segments. And I'd be like, who are all these people that can go so much quicker than me? And then later I realised it was because Women's Tour went through the area.
What was it then like to step into those ranks yourself and be at those races?
I think it's really exciting, obviously, to be able to live your dreams and live your goals, but ultimately I think you have to remember you're there to do a job. But I think that sometimes it's good to kind of have a pinch yourself moment and remember how far you've come as well. So one of those was for me at the Giro. Voss just rode past me and was like, I like your glasses. And I was like, Voss likes my glasses.
Well, what a backdrop. Where are we?
So we're now in Ironbridge, which my fact of the day is Ironbridge is home of the Industrial Revolution, and it's because where they perfected the technique of melting iron with coke for cheaper production of iron, hence Ironbridge.
You learn something new every day. Thank you for the fact file.
You're welcome.
What else is next?
Ardèche in September, and then hopefully Women's Tour in October, and then Nationals.
Well, I'll see you out there, and thanks for a beautiful pedal in the lanes today. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you. I've loved showing you my home roads.
Another great day out in the saddle for me this month. Now, Hayley, how well do you know Leah?
Actually, it's been really nice to see that she's been doing a lot of time trialling in the UK the past month or so. And she's been getting some really good results, doing some really good times. I think actually she could be someone to look out for at the national time trial this year.
Well, let's focus in now on her Team TIBCO teammate, Christian Faulkner. We mentioned her stage victory earlier, of course, on the podium in Norway as well, but she's got such a fascinating background into the sport, hasn't she?
Yeah, she does. So she is 28 years old. This is only her second season, and it's actually, she only gave up her job working as a venture capitalist at the beginning of the year. She was part-time the year before, and even when she was part-time, she managed to win a stage at the Tour of the Ardèche, which is super hard race. She's from Alaska. There's like about a multitude of interesting things about Kristen Faulkner.
I've got to pick up on the Alaska reference because I was reading how if her mum, when she was growing up, forgot something from the grocery store, that she would send her fishing.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So she's definitely resourceful. You can see that in the peloton, can't you? She has had a pretty swift rise through the ranks, hasn't she?
Yeah, I think actually Ardèche was her first pro race last year. You know, I think she'd done some Zwift stuff, but Ardèche was her first kind of really big race. And as Rose said, you know, she was still working at the time. So I think she was getting up at 6 in the morning, doing a bit of work, doing the stage, coming back from the stage, and then doing some Zoom meetings and things like that. And, you know, she managed to win a pretty hard stage. And I think almost in a way she's still trying to work out exactly what kind of rider she is, because she's had some really good results in the classics this year. You know, she was 10th at Flanders, and I think she was 7th at Wevelgem as well. So I think she could do really well in maybe some of the Ardennes, but you know, it's clear that she's super strong.
She really is. And what have you both made of her tactically?
A lot of the time when people come later to the sport, they tend to prefer, riders like Navi Garcia say, they prefer to be out front or unfortunately out the back, but they never want to be in the pack. And I think sometimes, especially we saw her quite a lot in the Ardennes, and she got kind of top 20 finishes there. But I think it's kind of a bad sign that we saw quite a lot of her there. Sometimes there were moves that she was chasing down when she was in a select group where there was a number of SD Works riders or a number of Trek Segafredo riders, and she should have been letting them do the work instead of taking it upon herself. But you know what it does show you is that she's totally fearless. It's obviously clear that she wants to animate the race, that she wants to take it from the front. That she's competitive, that she wants to go for the win. She's not a rider that's, you know, coming into it late and is too shy to make any moves.
One advantage that, you know, she has as well is she's got some brilliant direction from the team staff. Rachel Hederman, ex-pro, really good rider, really knows what she's talking about. So I think, yeah, Kristen Faulkner might have a lot to learn, but she's got a really able kind of team and team staff around her to teach her pretty quickly. And I think actually we could see some really impressive results from her in the future.
Well, the Paralympic Games are upon us. Let's hear now from British paracycling talent and star of Rio 2016, Hannah Dines, and she's got everything we need to know.
When life gives you lemons and you don't get selected for the Paralympics, become their #1 fangirl instead. Hey Bunnyhop, I'm Hannah Dines. I'm a Paralympic trike racer turned commentator for Tokyo 2020, and I'm reporting from my house. It's not my house, it's somebody else's, and somebody else did these 1,000 cranes for good luck. I'm really very excited about the Paralympics, can you tell? There's so many great things about the Paralympics, especially about paracycling. Did you know that if you don't have legs, you can still cycle? Did you know that if you can't balance a bike, you can still cycle? I love the track. All those little sprinters sprinting away, all the endurance pursuiters doing like 4-minute effort. Oh my goodness, no. The road race is really tough. The road racing kicks off on Tuesday the 31st of August. So there'll be 4 days of paracycling road racing. These will be held at the Fuji International Speedway in Tokyo. You see those mountains behind me? That's about as mountainous as the course is to our paracycling road races and time trialists this year. Ooh. So I'm going to pick 4 races for you. That shouldn't be too hard, should it? Tuesday 31st of August, bike race. Women's C1 to 3 time trial. It's the biggest turnout for this classification that a Paralympic Games has ever seen. We have Paige Greco from Australia, we have Segura Kaiko from Japan, we have Anna Beck from Sweden, we have Xiaomei Wang from China. That's going to just be amazing. I can't tell you who's going to win. Wednesday, the 1st of September, hand cycle race, the women's H1 to 4 road race. That's 4 different classifications in the one race for 3 medals. It's going to be carnage. Watch it for amazing Svetlana Moskvich and Italian Francesca Porsolato. On Thursday the 2nd of September, trike race, women's T1 to 2 road race. In the women's road race, look out and shout for Jana Muyinka of Germany. She's the youngest trike racer, she's the best at hills, and all is the Fuji International Speedway hilly. It's really hilly and really dangerous for trikes, so we're more than likely to see some trike crashes. The men, they just crash straight away and it's over. Literally half the field will be taken out in the first 5 minutes. So okay, tune in, watch 5 minutes of the men's race and then switch to the women's. They're much more tactical and you'll see some amazing moves from every single nation. Friday the 3rd of September, tandem race, the women's B road race. The time trial will be more clear cut, okay? I expect Laurent and Karine to get gold that day. But this road race will be really interesting because in June of this year, our brand new tandem, who'd only ever done 1 international race, yes, I am talking about Sophie Unwin and Jenny Hull, they stormed to victory, winning gold in the World Championships. Ireland are the ones to beat, so that's Eve McChrystal, Katie George Dunleavy, and they are really, really strong. I have no idea how it's going to play out, and I love a race like that. This is Hannah's show where she takes you round her landlord's garden, and there's a fly in my face. Look at that! Talking to you about paracycling. in Tokyo.
And that's not all we've got to look forward to, because upcoming is the World Championships, of course. Hayley, I imagine you've studied that TT course quite closely.
It's just over 30 kilometres long and almost a straight line, just a few bends in it, from the coast in towards Bruges, so pan flat, as you would probably expect in that part of Belgium.
Rose, how about the road race course? What do we know about that?
Well, I think when you think it's going to be Flanders 2021 is what they've kind of been advertising it as, but it's not really the Flanders that we know it. It kind of doesn't have those big iconic climbs like the Quermont and Gerardsberg, those ones that you kind of expect to see in a World Championships course. It's based around Leuven, so there's kind of rather confusing kind of looking course, to be honest. If you manage to stay on the route, then you're probably in with a good chance of winning it. Yeah, I think it'll be most familiar to the kind of climbs that we're doing in the World Champs will be familiar to people who've watched Brabantse Pijl, and casting your mind back, that's the race that kind of Demi Vollering celebrated a little bit early, and Ruth Winder managed to creep up for the win. The climbs are never more than a kilometre. We're kind of talking between 200 and 800 metres, but there's a lot of them.
The first section is pretty flat, so all of the climbs come within quite a short period. So it's going to be who can do those repeated, short, high-power efforts over and over and over.
I think if you can make that select group and you've got a decent fast finish on you, then you've got a good chance of winning.
So you know what I'm going to say now. I'm going to press you for names.
I know I shouldn't have said that. I should have said, Becca, I don't know anything about this course. I haven't looked at it and I don't know anything about it. I know. I would say Demi Vollering would be a great bet. She's got really good sprint on her. We've seen that she's proven to go the course in the one-day races. I have to say Marianne Vos also. I think she's so hard to shake. You really need quite a long climb in order to shake Marianne Vos from a lead group. I'm trying to think of people to say that aren't Dutch.
I just want to say that.
Yeah, and the Dutch are going to have numbers as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
That because they're always right at the top of the international rankings. I mean, I would have said Kopecki's going to want to be doing well in that race. It's her home World Championship. She's also been sprinting really, really well. She's had some great results.
Maybe Corinne Rivera. There you go. Come up with someone that wasn't
Corinne's
Dutch,
quite a good shout, actually.
Yeah.
She's small. She does climb a lot better than some people I think give her credit for, and she finishes quickly.
Very good shout. And what about the TT?
I'm going Dutch again. Obviously, I think this course has Ellen van Dijk written all over it, personally. She missed out on Tokyo selection, so she's going to be fired up to be getting a big time trial result. It's really similar in nature, but a bit longer than the Alkmaar European Championships that I raced in as well. So that race was 22k. This is obviously 30, but I think as you get longer, it's going to suit Ellen probably even better.
She had COVID in around April this year. I think she posted just this morning on her Twitter that her stats are now showing that she's getting back to the level that she was pre-COVID. So it's been a really long recovery that she's been going through. But she's finally hitting those numbers that she was at the beginning of the year, which will be a huge boost for her as well.
And of course, someone else we'll have our eyes on is Movistar's Annemiek Van Vleuten. So it's only fitting that we hear from her next in this month's Something About Me.
The biggest lesson cycling taught to me is that a gold medal doesn't make you a more happy person. I love learning more about Spain and the Spanish culture. My signature dance move is that I am a really bad dancer, so I don't have a signature dance move. The skill I most want to master is to do a bunnyhop. Yeah, the most annoying thing people say to me is that now I have to continue until Paris. The weirdest thing I won at a bike race is for sure something from the Tour of Drenthe, where they always have like vacuum cleaners or toasters or something like that. I fell in love with cycling when I had the first time experiencing how beautiful it is to ride in the mountains. The most awesome ice cream will be Italian ice cream, and I don't go ever to the McDonald's. The first thing I will do when I come home from a race is put on my coffee machine and in the winter light my fireplace in my living room. The last thing I ate was I think dinner here in the Norwegian salmon. That's why I'm here in the Tour of Norway. The thing that some people do, what I don't get, is throwing away rubbish in the beautiful nature. The best smell in the world is of homemade fresh apple pie. My next holiday destination is to a scuba dive destination, but I don't know yet where COVID will allow me. My go-to drink is coffee, a double espresso. The last thing that made me laugh was yesterday when Barbara Gwarski and Annemiek were celebrating my gold medals with some wine and in the corridor.
Well, that makes two of us that need to master the bunny hop then. Well, that's almost all we've got time for from this month's episode of the Bunny Hop. But before we go, I've got one final question to put to each of our studio pundits. Big thank you to Lion of Roubaix over on Twitter for this one. And it is, if you could choose anyone to go on a bike ride with, who would it be, Hayley?
I feel this is going to be a really boring answer, but I'd love to meet Fabian Cancellara. I've never met him. I know a lot of people that have, so yeah, I'd love to ride with Fabian.
Yours is something that might actually happen though, Hayley.
Yeah,
your dream might come true.
It might do. Is anyone watching that knows Cancellara?
Give him a tweet.
Yeah.
I would say Serena Williams would be my pick, just because I think she's a total badass. So is there any better reason than that? She would totally whoop me on a bike. Like, I would just be useless.
She'd just want to win everything. Even if you were just going to a cafe, she'd want to win the cafe ride.
It would be an honour to eat her dust. So what can I say? Serena Williams.
I know no one asked me, but I'm going Matthew McConaughey.
That's a pretty good shout, actually.
Thanks.
Can I join you?
Yeah, you're all welcome, because I feel like this is going to happen and you're all very welcome. And on that note, that really is all we've got time for this month. If you're not already giving us a follow over on social media, the handle is @thebunnyhop_cc, and the more the merrier. We'll be back next month. And in the meantime, keep riding, keep watching, keep bunny hopping. Bye-bye.